What's going on, guys? Today, we are going to explore one of the most insane and haunting stories in the entire history of X-Men. A story that is not about Wolverine fighting Sabretooth, not about Wolverine facing off against Omega Red, not about Wolverine going up against the ninjas of the Hand. Instead, it is about a battle that Logan cannot win, because his enemy is himself, a different version of Wolverine, arriving from a future where everything has collapsed. A figure who carries within him all the memories, all the pain, all the rage that Logan has spent centuries trying to suppress. An ordinary morning at the Xavier Institute. Wolverine is standing on the balcony, watching the young mutants play in the courtyard, a familiar cigar between his lips. Suddenly, a spatial rift tears open the sky directly above him. A figure falls through, slamming into the school courtyard with a thunderous impact. When the dust and smoke clear, everyone is left in stunned silence. Standing at the center of the crater is another Wolverine, but not the Wolverine we know. His armor is shredded, caked in dried blood. His eyes no longer carry the familiar blue hue, but instead burn with a deep red of pure madness. And carved into his chest, etched deep into the adamantium, is a message. The apocalypse begins with these very hands. The moment Logan steps forward to confront the stranger, the figure raises his head, flashes a blood-soaked grin, and speaks in a ragged, hoarse voice. "Hello, Logan. I came from the future to save you, by killing you before you destroy everything." And that is only the surface of the nightmare known as the Dark Old Man Logan. To understand why the most dangerous enemy Logan has ever faced is not someone else, but himself from an alternate timeline. We are not talking about an impersonator, not talking about a clone like X-24 who appeared in Logan. We are talking about a true Wolverine, with the same bloodline, the same adamantium skeleton, the same healing factor, but one who has endured a tragedy so devastating that it completely shattered the boundary between man and beast, a place where Wolverine's greatest fear became reality. Remember that Logan has lived for over 200 years. He has fought in countless wars, has killed thousands of enemies, has watched everyone he ever loved grow old and die. The one thing that kept him anchored to his own humanity was the Xavier Institute, the young mutants he swore to protect. But in this dark Wolverine timeline, all of that was taken away, not by an outside enemy, but by his own hands. The voice of Dark Wolverine echoes across the pages in a soul-wrenching monologue. Do you know what it feels like to wake up in a room filled with the corpses of the people you love most? When you look down at your own hands and see them soaked in the blood of Jean, of Scott, of Charles, of the kids? I could not control it, Logan. The beast inside me rose up, and I killed them all. But the worst part was not that I killed them. The worst part is that I cannot die to atone for what I did. I tried. I attempted to take my own life hundreds of times, but our healing factor is a curse, and it will not allow me to rest in peace. This is the psychological starting point for the character's journey. Dark Wolverine's motivation is not conquest or destruction, but a profound despair disguised beneath a shell of madness. He believes the only way to save his timeline is to travel back in time and kill himself before the beast within ever awakens. When you hear me say, this enemy is more dangerous than anyone Wolverine has ever faced, that is no exaggeration. Sabretooth may be stronger, Omega Red may be more brutal, but none of them understand every weakness, every combat habit, every psychological wound of Wolverine the way he himself does. Dark Wolverine does not only know how Logan will react in every situation, he also knows exactly what to say to hurt Logan the most. He knows about Logan's obsession with Jean Grey, knows about his guilt over the death of Mariko, knows about the suppressed memories from the Weapon X program, and he will use all of that as psychological weapons before he ever needs to draw his claws. The Xavier Institute, immediately after Dark Wolverine appears, the X-Men instantly move into combat positions. Cyclops activates his optic blast, Storm summons storm clouds, Colossus transforms his entire body into organic steel. But Dark Wolverine simply stands there, sneering, and then, in the blink of an eye, he vanishes. Not through instantaneous teleportation, but by moving at a speed that far surpasses anything Wolverine has ever demonstrated. He reappears directly behind Cyclops and whispers into his ear, "Scott, I already killed you in my future. Want to know what that felt like?" Before anyone can react, a snikt rings out, and 3 adamantium claws drive straight through Cyclops' chest. Cyclops collapses, blood pooling across the marble floor of the Institute. Wolverine, our Logan, lets out a furious roar and hurls himself at the attacker. 2 sets of claws clash against each other, throwing off blinding sparks. But the most terrifying thing is not the strength or speed of Dark Wolverine, it is the way he fights. Every strike he throws targets the critical weak points that only Wolverine would ever know. He knows Logan will dodge to the left when attacked from above. He knows Logan will drop low when preparing a counterattack. He even knows that Logan has a habit of drawing one deep breath before unleashing a finishing blow, and he exploits all of it without mercy. Now, I want to go back and explain the true nature of the beast within Wolverine. Many people mistakenly believe the beast is simply a metaphor for Logan's rage. That is like saying the ocean is just a puddle of water. In the original comics, especially through the works of Chris Claremont and later Jason Aaron, the beast within Wolverine is portrayed as an entity that is nearly self-aware. It is not merely a killing instinct, but the accumulated weight of 200 years of suffering, loss, and betrayal. Every time Logan loses control, the beast rises, and the line between man and monster begins to fade. And the key point, what Dark Wolverine truly represents, is a future where the beast has won completely. In his timeline, after slaughtering all of the X-Men in a fit of madness, Logan lived on for decades more, in total isolation and overwhelming guilt. But instead of seeking redemption, he allowed that guilt to transform into a new kind of rage, one directed entirely inward at himself. He began to believe that the problem was not that he had lost control in a single moment, but that his very nature, the nature of Wolverine, had always been that of a destroyer. And the only way to correct that mistake was to erase the existence of Wolverine entirely from every timeline. A quick breakdown. Why is Dark Wolverine more dangerous than any other version of Wolverine we have ever seen? Compare him to Old Man Logan, an aged version of Wolverine who abandoned his claws after being manipulated by Mysterio into killing all of the X-Men. Old Man Logan responded to that tragedy by withdrawing, by refusing violence. But Dark Wolverine responded by throwing himself headfirst into violence, by embracing the beast and becoming it. He no longer distinguishes between right and wrong. All he sees is a universe that needs to be cleansed of his own existence. And within that fractured, maddened mind, he developed combat skills that far exceed any ordinary version of Wolverine. He spent decades sharpening his killing ability, not to fight enemies, but to fight himself. Meanwhile, back at the Xavier Institute, the battle between the two Wolverines rages on. Logan is badly wounded. His healing factor is running at full capacity, but injuries caused by adamantium always take far longer to close. Dark Wolverine stands over Logan, claws pressed against his throat, but instead of finishing him off, he leans down and whispers, "Do you remember that night at Alkali Lake, Logan? When the Weapon X program pumped adamantium into your bones? I remember. I remember every single second of that agony, and I know you do too. But what you do not know is that in that very moment, the beast was born. We died in that adamantium tank, Logan. What walked out was no longer James Howlett. It was Wolverine, a weapon, a killing machine. This is an extraordinarily psychologically heavy moment. Dark Wolverine does not simply want to kill Logan physically. He wants to completely destroy Logan's humanity before the end. He wants Logan to admit that he is a monster, that every effort to be a good person, a teacher, a protector, has been nothing more than a meaningless illusion. But Logan, with all the ironclad will that has kept him alive through 2 centuries of hell, does not break. He looks directly into the eyes of his own dark reflection and says, "You are wrong. I am not the beast. I am the one who tamed it. Every day I wake up, I have to fight it. And every day I do not kill an innocent person. That is a victory. You let it beat you. You are weak. And that is why you are going to fail." This is a moment that I personally believe stands as one of the most intense psychological and physical confrontations in the entire history of X-Men. The battle between the two Wolverines is no longer a fight about raw power. It is a fight about will, about which one of them truly defines what Wolverine is. After hearing Logan's words, Dark Wolverine takes a step back, not out of fear, but because something else flickers across those blazing red eyes: doubt. For the first time in decades, he wonders whether he truly chose the wrong path. But then the madness surges back, stronger than ever before. He roars, "You do not understand. I tried. I tried to live like a human being. But the beast was always there, waiting, whispering in my ear every single night. It told me that everyone I love will eventually die, and that the one who kills them will be me. And it was right. It has always been right." And then the real battle begins. Dark Wolverine launches himself at Logan with a ferocity never seen before. Every punch, every slash, carries with it the weight of decades of hatred and despair. Logan is driven back, his body torn open by those all-too-familiar claws. But strangely, the more wounds he takes, the calmer his eyes become. He realizes something that Dark Wolverine cannot see. The dark version is not fighting Logan. He is fighting himself. fighting the reflection of every sin and every failure he has never been able to forgive. The true climax arrives when Dark Wolverine drives all three claws straight through Logan's abdomen, pinning him against the wall of the Institute. Blood pours freely, and Logan's healing factor begins to slow, utterly exhausted after sustaining wound after wound in rapid succession. Dark Wolverine stands there, breathing hard, his face twisted by rage and anguish. He whispers, in a voice that sounds almost like a plea, "Why do you still have hope? Why do you still believe you can be a good person? I have seen the future. I have seen what we are going to do. Let me end all of this. Let me save you from yourself." And this is the decisive moment. Logan, drawing on his last reserves of strength, raises his head and smiles, a sad smile, but one completely free of despair. He says, "You want to know the difference between me and you? It is not that I am stronger. It is not that I am better. It is that I have people who believe in me. I have Charles, who saw the good in me even when I could not see it myself. I have Jean, who loved me despite knowing the beast inside me. I have the kids, children, who look at me as a protector, not a monster. You come from a future where you lost all of that, but I have not, and I will never let myself lose them." And then, something unthinkable happens. Dark Wolverine freezes. Logan's words, rather than driving him further into madness, reach the last remaining fragment of humanity buried inside him. He looks down at his blood-soaked hands, and for the first time in decades, he weeps. He pulls his claws from Logan's abdomen, steps back, and crumbles to the floor. All the rage, all the madness that had sustained him for so many years suddenly dissolves, leaving behind nothing but an empty and utterly broken man. And we witness a fundamental shift in Dark Wolverine's own understanding of himself. He realizes he was wrong, that the problem was never that Wolverine's nature is inherently evil, but that he had given up the fight against the beast. He had chosen the easiest path available, accepting that he was a monster and acting like one. Meanwhile, Logan, every single day, fights that same beast and still chooses to be a good person. The difference is not in their nature, it is in their choices. A deeply moving scene unfolds. Dark Wolverine, who had come to kill Logan, now kneels before him, his shoulders shaking with broken, heaving sobs. He whispers, "I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. I was too weak. I was not strong enough to keep fighting the way you do." Logan, despite his severe injuries, walks over and places a hand on the shoulder of his own dark reflection. He says nothing at all. No words of forgiveness, no words of comfort, only the silence of a man who fully understands the pain the other is carrying. Because Logan knows that in different circumstances, in a different timeline, he could just as easily be the one kneeling on that floor. Dark Wolverine, having faced Logan and come to terms with his own mistake, chooses to return to his timeline. But this time, he does not go back to destroy. He goes back to rebuild, to live out the remainder of his life as a protector for the mutants who still survive, as a long overdue act of atonement for every crime he committed. The consequence of this battle is not the disappearance of a threat, but the birth of a new Wolverine, one who has learned the most costly lesson of all. True strength does not lie in the ability to kill, but in the ability to choose not to. And Logan has never been a perfect hero. He is a killer, a war machine, a beast caged within the boundaries of his own humanity. But it is precisely that relentless struggle to hold on to that humanity which defines him. Wolverine is not a hero because he has no darkness within him, but because he defeats that darkness every single day. And Dark Wolverine, with all his power and all his brutality, is the living embodiment of what happens if Logan ever surrenders that fight. For Wolverine, the war with himself has never ended. It plays out every day, every hour, every moment he chooses not to kill an innocent person, every time he holds back his rage and listens to reason. And that is what makes a true hero, not the absence of darkness, but the daily victory over it. And now, I want to hear from you. What do you think? If Logan were to truly lose control one day and become Dark Wolverine, is there anyone in the Marvel Universe who could stop him? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. And if you want to support us even further so we can produce in-depth analysis videos like this one every week, check out our channel. Thank you all for being here with us, and I will see you in the next universe story. Peace out.